according to the Gallup News, at least 7.1% of adults in America are openly part of the LGBTQ community, and 0.6% are openly transgender. Although these percentages may seem small, they make a bigger difference in our country than you may know. Since 2020, people have become overly sensitive to opinionated topics, especially when it comes to ones in the LGBTQ community. If you have been on any social media platform within the last 3 or 4 years, especially TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter, you most likely have bared witness to verbal and often physical attacks on someone for being so-called homophobic. For instance, if you are openly Christian, Republican, or your belief system does not meet the criteria of a certain left-wing group, you can consider yourself canceled. That is why I believe that the LGBTQ ideologies should not be so highly valued and publicized, because they threaten our First Amendment right, eliminate people's willingness to think for themselves, and can often cause defamation to you, your job, and your family as a form of backlash for not believing in the ideas of the LGBTQ community. According to the first article in the U.S. Constitution, we as Americans have the right to freedom of the press, freedom of speech, and freedom of religion. With all the new upcoming ideologies that play alongside the LGBTQ community, these freedoms are often threatened. As we all have probably gathered throughout the course of our whole lives, not everyone is going to agree on the same topic. Because of the sensitive culture of the so-called LGBTQ activists all around the country, people are being censored and hushed, and articles, videos, and posts are being taken down. Why? Because all of these things contained an opinion that did not align with the ideas of the LGBTQ community. I understand whenever a post gets taken down for someone being completely nasty about their thoughts on the LGBTQ community, and why those posts need to be taken down. But I do not agree with banning someone for taking down their post for making a harmless comment which may state that they do not agree or do not believe in the same things. Not only has freedom of speech and freedom of press been threatened, but Christianity has also been under fire. Christians are often viewed as judgmental people and homophobic due to their sets of beliefs, and because of that reason, activists have moved to cancel Christianity. Something that we see a lot in America today is the product of compliance. Compliance means being willing to please others, oblige by agreeing with them. In other words, being a people pleaser. And according to YouGov.com, about 52% of society falls victim to this. We often do this so that we are not viewed as outcasts or black sheep. In life, there are followers and leaders. The leaders are the voice of the crowd and influence others, and the followers go along with the crowd. One lesson from social psychology is that of the influence they have on others. Research shows we do not have as much control over our own thoughts and behavior as we think, stated psychologytoday.com. In America today, we see this happen all the time, especially when it comes to LGBTQ community. One person preaches equality for the community. Everyone goes along with it. Activists plant the idea in people's heads that you have to comply with the community's beliefs so that you are not written off as homophobic, meaning that if you do not agree with their lifestyles or accept them, you will be faced with hatred and other forms of backlash for thinking differently. People have become scared to open up about how they feel on the topic. With the LGBTQ rights being so publicized and valued, people are losing their willingness to think for themselves because they have been pursued to believe a certain way. Considering the fact that most of us remember the election of 2020, you have probably heard the word defamation at least once. The word defamation is to damage the good reputation of someone and or to slander someone's name. As I have previously stated, people have become too sensitive to topics on the LGBTQ community. So when people feel as though the LGBTQ community is under attack in any way, they stop at nothing to make someone pay. For example, President Trump, according to Glad.com, stated that he believes that transgender women should not be allowed to participate in women's sports since they are biologically men, meaning they are made differently. Among other statements that President Trump has made, a majority of the LGBTQ community has deemed him as homophobic in the public eye. Not only did this harmless comment inflict backlash on him and his family, but they affected his supporters too. Also, people took to their social media platforms and openly supported Trump. They too were banned homophobic. As we witnessed throughout the course of 2020 and 2021, people have lost their jobs, family, and friends because they don't want someone around who has been blasted for being so-called homophobic. But for instance, the Trump supporters are not the only ones being harmed. It also comes with Christianity as well. As we all know, Christians believe that a relationship is meant to be held between a man and a woman, and to the activists for the LGBTQ, this is a discrimination. In the eyes of some of the LGBTQ community, you are in other words homophobic. An example of this is Chris Pratt, who is most commonly known for his role in Guardians of the Galaxy. Chris Pratt is openly Christian. Because of this, he has faced backlash. According to ABC News, the Ellen Page accused Chris Pratt of attending a church that is infamously anti-LGBTQ. Pratt stated, "It has recently been suggested that I belong to a church which hates a certain group of people and is infamously anti-LGBTQ. Nothing could be farther from the truth than this. I go to a church that opens its doors to absolutely everyone." LGBTQ ideologies should not have been so highly valued or publicized because they threaten our First Amendment rights, eliminate people's willingness to think for themselves, and can cause defamation to you. Since people have the freedom of speech and press, it would be wrong to totally eliminate these ideologies from being publicized. And I do realize censoring this may be viewed as hypocritical because it would be. What I mean when I say these ideologies should not be so highly thought of and shouldn't overrule people's lives or rights, I myself would prefer to go about my day without having someone constantly pushing these onto me and cursing them to think or believe a certain way. Not everybody wants to hear about it anymore. Honestly, it's old news to me, and personally, I could care less about the relationship between a man and a woman, a man and a man, a woman and a woman, or a person and a spoon. I'm sure that other people feel the same, but people have been conditioned to not talk about it because of the fear of backlash that they might face. In my opinion, for a community that is supposed to build people up and show love, they inflict more hate and bring them down than uplift.